Updates. If you just tuned in, we're bringing you live coverage of the ministerial vetting from Parliament. Now, we told you earlier there were communication gaps. The reason the vetting is starting a bit late today, it was scheduled to start at 9 a.m., but because of those communication gaps, it's actually supposed to start at 11 a.m. The first person on the road to be vetted today is Dr. Edward Omanebwama. He is actually heading the IT and Election Department for the NDC, and now he's been nominated as Minister Designate for the Defense Ministry. He has taken a seat, and the committee is about to start their work. They have 5 other individuals they would be vetting today, and we're live in Parliament to give you all of that once it starts. You're still watching Joe News Desk. Please, let's do some other stories now. President John Dramani Mahama is asking African Union leaders to prioritize women and young people in leadership roles, stressing the importance of having them in advancing Africa's progress. Speaking at a high-level retreat on African Union institutional reforms held at Kenyan State House in Nairobi, President John Dramani Mahama also said that the over-reliance on foreign partners compromises African Union's independence. There's more in this report by Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Agwagwa.
President John Mahama was welcomed to Kenya State House with the Ghana national anthem as he joined Kenya's president and other African leaders at the high-level African Union institutional reforms retreat. In his speech, President John Mahama urged African leaders to prioritize the inclusion of women and young people in leadership roles. He stressed the importance of having them in advancing Africa's progress.
Africa's future lies in its youth. Over 60% of our population is under the age of 25, and yet their voices are largely absent in policymaking. We must institutionalize frameworks that empower our young people and our women to lead at all levels of governance. And I'm happy to report that in the last election, for the first time in Ghana's history, we elected a woman as our vice president. The energy of our youth, creativity, and vision are the drivers of the Africa that we all seek to build.
President Mahama said the over-reliance on foreign partners compromises African Union's independence. He said the AU should fast-track efforts towards financial independence.
Your Excellencies, one of the fundamental pillars of reform is AU's financial autonomy. The over-reliance on external partners for funding compromises the organization's independence and ability to set its own agenda. The implementation of the Kigali decision on financing the Union must be expedited. A self-reliant African Union is not just a vision we have, it is an imperative to achieve.
President Mahama also called on the African Union to prioritize funding for the African Union Standby Force to strengthen its ability to respond to crises and conflicts across the continent, and the critical role of the force in addressing pressing challenges, including the growing threat of terrorism.
Your Excellencies, without peace, there can be no development. The AU must strengthen its capacity to prevent, mediate, and resolve conflicts. This includes adequately resourcing the African Standby Force and leveraging partnerships to address emergency threats such as terrorism, cybercrime, and climate-induced displacements. Indeed, this is very important for us, especially in West Africa, considering the challenge we face from terrorism.
Kenya's president, who is a champion of the African Union institutional reforms, raised concerns about rising terrorism in Africa and called for joint efforts to deal with it.
It is absolutely necessary at this point in time for Africa Union to reimagine, rethink, reorganize our peace and security architecture. As things stand today, Africa is a big theater of conflict and, unfortunately, terrorism. And our response has been uncoordinated, under-resourced, and not very well planned. Therefore, we have recommended that a high-level panel interrogate our peace and security infrastructure, including the envoys across the continent, the infrastructure around the Africa Union Commission.
Well, the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has underscored the power of the people as an important pillar of democracy, which must be respected for democracy to thrive. Speaking as a keynote speaker at Nigeria's National Conference on Strengthening Democracy, Dr. Bawumia lamented what he referred to as the increasing frugality of democracy in some parts of Africa and said for democracy to thrive, political leaders ought to trust the political system and accept the will of the people.
Between 2020 and 2023, there have been about 8 coups d'etats in Africa. A few leaders have also changed or are changing their constitutions to allow them to stay in power beyond their constitutionally mandated terms. The increasing fragility of democracy in Africa and across the world is cause for concern. In democratic countries, the will of the people is expressed through elections, and leaders, especially incumbents, must trust the electoral process and accept the will of the people for the survival of democracy. By 3 a.m. on Sunday, because the election was on Saturday, it was obvious from the data that we had received from our collation centers that my opponent, the former president and now president, John Dramani Mahama, had decisively won the election. I knew, so by 3 a.m., I had come to this conclusion that we had lost the election. I knew it would take between 48 to 72 hours for the Electoral Commission to collate and announce the official results. I was very cognizant of the tension and the potential violence that could result if there was a long, drawn-out process of announcing the results. Indeed, the tension had begun to mount. I therefore took the decision to hold a press conference
Screens there are live visuals from the Appointments Committee sitting in Parliament, and that vetting of ministerial nominees for today is about to start in a couple of minutes. Well, it was scheduled to start at 9 a.m. because of communication gaps. It has been pushed to 11 a.m. and we're live there. We know that to be vetted first would be the Minister-designate for Defense, Dr. Mani Bwama. He heads the IT and election departments for the NDC, but now will be taking up that role. That role was initially occupied by the NPP's Dominic Intiwul, and the vetting committee is about to start sitting. We'll be taking you there shortly, but let's do some other stories now. The Minister for Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, has warned his staff against any attempt to sabotage his work. Now, the minister gave this warning during an interaction with staff as part of a 3-day tour of departments and agencies under the ministry. There's more in this report by James Aveji.
The Minister for Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, 4 days into his term in office, has begun a tour of the various directorates under his ministry.
I came here principally to introduce myself to you as part of the team and to also listen to you, appreciate some of the challenges you're facing here, and then put our shoulders to the wheel to ensure that we address some of these challenges and then take off immediately.
As part of the interactions with the minister, the staff used the opportunity to outline a number of challenges confronting them in their line of duty.
We used to have a very large tract of land. Unfortunately, as at the end of last year, all this land have been taken over from us. We are currently restricted to this portion that we have our buildings and things all.
Unfortunately, for so many years, we've been having challenges with budgetary allocations as far as SRID is concerned. And we have not been working as we should.
This is how the minister intends to resolve all of these challenges, especially the issue of land grabbing.
In fact, with respect to the land encroachment, I want the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to be approved and sworn in. I will engage him because you know that power to protect the land is vested in the Ministry of Lands. And so when I engage the minister, we'll look at how we can put an end to this. First, if those developers do not have title to the lands on which they are developing, then we have to apply the law.
One key issue that's run through the conversation on the day has been the warning against any staff who would want to sabotage his work as a minister.
The politics is over. You may belong to a Chichidie party or Kotre party. At the end of the day, we are talking about Ghana and how to govern our country. So let's all hang our political jackets, mobilize all that we have, and then ensure that we succeed, because this is the only country we have. If you are still in the political mood and you think that everything is politics, then you are an obstacle. An obstacle must be cleared to allow free flow of development.
He is also promising to work hard to cut down on importation of agri produce, especially onion and tomatoes from our neighboring countries.
It is unfortunate and unacceptable that a country like Ghana, with all the agricultural endowments that we have, we are still importing onion. We are importing pepper. We are importing tomato from Burkina Faso. Every peso that is expended on the importation of these items create jobs in those countries. And so if you want jobs for our children, if you want jobs for our grandchildren, for our siblings, our neighbors, our relatives, what we must do is to produce more here so that that money will stay here and create the jobs for our people.
The 3-day working tour, which is expected to come to an end on Wednesday, would inform the minister on what more decisions to take in order to reform the agri sector as promised by the NDC government. From the ministry here in Accra, I'm James Savage reporting for Joy News.
Well, at least 20 children living with cerebral palsy in the Ashanti region, together with their families, are anxious for respite after being evacuated from a facility they've always known to be home. With no appropriate establishment built by government, a non-governmental organization secured a safe facility from a private property owner and turned it into the only foster care home in the region. There's more in this report.
Solomon Evans sits distraught in the porch of a place he once called home, anxious of where next to lay his head. A facility he has in the past 4 years hoped to live in permanently is up for demolition by its owners.
The whole thing is like a dream. Like I'm just waiting for someone to wake me up.
After his parents abandoned him years ago, the 29-year-old living with cerebral palsy navigated life's challenging paths and defied his mobility difficulties to become an IT supervisor at a private university. The detached house with at least 10 spacious rooms and other facilities he stayed in provided a convenient abode for him and at least 30 other children he called siblings.
This hostel full of my colleagues in school, so basically day in and day out, I I often go to the hostel, play with them, and when time for me to come, I come back. So living will be a big blow to me.
The facility located at Kenyasi was handed to the Apiahini CP Respite and Home, the only private facility in the Shanti region that provides special care for very dependent children with cerebral palsy. It follows a 4-year contractual agreement with the property owner in collaboration with the social welfare unit at the Kwabri East municipality. After investing all her resources into the initiative to support the special kids, founder Martha Opoku is now financially drained to keep the facility. She, together with the kids, faced the daunting reality of eviction after they failed to pay up for the facility.
We have nothing because caring for these children is very expensive. With some of the caregivers that we have to pay them well so that they'll be able to have the heart to support. If I can't go much, if I can't go further, I had only 4 people who were in with the hands from the area, women. So finance is very difficult. Personally, I sold my clinic, I sold my land, to get into this project to help these children. So we have nothing as we speak now.
Solomon takes me to the room he used to occupy, which already had its roof ripped off.
Even the entire vicinity was given us free of charge. I can be bold to say within 1 year, the owner would have recovered any loss being given out. Looking, it's just unfortunate that it had to come this far. And
the special home brought relief to parents and guardians of these children.
If you should give birth to such children, you cannot do anything. If you leave them home, you have to rush back from wherever you are.
Sorry, none of pen, Madame the friend say, you too. So never be informed Fentino. Say, meeting the men could feel fat.
I came here days ago to visit him, but I wasn't told of anything. It was just this morning I had a call from the founder. They are being evacuated. I am really worried right now.
Speech therapist at the facility, Emilia Ashiagbo, explains the situation could impact their care for the differently abled children.
Use articulators. That means the lips, the tongue, they are all weak. So we start with massaging for them. We do maybe sound imitating with them. Maybe we do speech, a little speech identification of items. It means they can't forget. Speech is a consistent therapy. So it means we are going to break and they might forget some of the things we have taught them. So it means we have to go back.
Catering to the needs of children with cerebral palsy requires technical expertise and patience, but with no suitable establishment by the government to contain the special kids, the place was a sanctuary for them. Stephen Edujemfi is a social welfare director at Kwabri East.
Children with disability requires a special training for people to handle them. Okay, Kumasi Children Home is not like that, though we are managing to take care of such people that gets there. But this facility is specially meant for people with cerebral palsy or people with disability. That's what the focus is. So if you ask how we are managing to take care of such people, we are doing our best. But like we see, our best is not enough.
With their belongings already ejected from the house, the kids, their caregivers, and guardians are unsure of their next place of abode.
For today, we have to get a hotel for the children for now. Maybe use about 3 days. And then we speak to the social welfare is also trying to get a space for us. But I prefer that we get support from president, from people, from institutions, from, churches, to have a permanent space for these children. I don't want us to get into anybody's house to unpack and then pack again. We're tired.
The special kids and their parents are appealing for aid to support them to find a permanent place of abode convenient for their physical, social, and cognitive development.
You question God why, but I know He has been my helper since, so I know this is just like something big is coming. I don't know what's coming, but I can hope so.
For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
Well, it's time for some business-related stories. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has kept its key lending rates to commercial banks unchanged. It left the rate at 27% after meeting to review developments in the economy over the past 2 months. Speaking at a press conference, the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Ernest Addison noted that the inflation challenge is a kind of control method they are putting in place, and it is under control, hence the need to hold the rate at 27%.
The stronger than projected growth and generally improved macroeconomic conditions are spilling over positively to the banking sector. To sustain this effort, the Bank of Ghana will continue to ensure that banks with capital gaps adhere to their committed recapitalization plans to shore up solvency. Supervisory activities will be intensified to ensure that banks continue to address the high NPLs, which poses potential risks to the stability of the industry. The improvement in the domestic macroeconomic conditions is also expected to bolster debt servicing capabilities of corporate and household sectors, which would help mitigate further buildup of NPLs within the industry. The inflation profile remains elevated, largely driven by food price movements, especially in the last quarter of the year. The climate-related factors, including the dry spell in some parts of the food-growing regions of the country, and the late onset of rains negatively affected production, while supply chain weaknesses generally affected food prices. While the inflation outturn for the year 2024 deviated from target, it is expected that the disinflation process will resume, contingent on renewed efforts at fiscal consolidation, which is anticipated in the new administration's economic policy agenda and the yet-to-be-presented 2025 budget statement. The bank's latest inflation forecast shows a steady decline and return to the path of disinflation with an extended time horizon of achieving the medium-term target of 8 plus or minus 2%. Under the circumstances, the committee decided to keep the monetary policy rate unchanged at 27%.
In July last year, the Korean International Cooperation Agency, KOICA, and the Korean Food and Hungry International set up 3 vocational schools in the Bongo District of the Upper East region to train women in vocational skills at no cost. The 6-month course and also 2-year course is currently ongoing. The 2 organizations have hosted an exhibition to highlight the achievements of the women. There's more in this report by Albert Soy.
The event took place in Bolgatanga, where trainees from the 3 vocational training schools located in Zoko, Boko, and Balungu, all in the Bongo District, showcased a variety of products they have created during their first 6 months of the 2-year training program. The exhibition featured beautifully crafted outfits made from traditional fugu fabrics, as well as bags and straw hats, all modeled by the enthusiastic trainees themselves. Project manager for Korea Food for the Hungry International, Ho Sung-kun, expressed hope that the exhibition would motivate the trainees to continue striving for excellence.
By focusing on your training, working hard, and paying the price for your better life and dream, you've been making your dream come true more closer than before. We will continue to support you in any way possible. I'd like to see more changes in our school.
There was a lot of excitement among the trainees, some of whom shared their aspirations and called for support from the new government of Ghana to help them succeed as entrepreneurs.
This opportunity have helped me. At first, I was in the house, I wasn't having any work to do. But now that I've joined Koika Educational School, it has really helped me. Whenever we vacate like this, I can now sew for people and collect money. So we are pleading the government to help us with financial support so that if we are done, we can be able to open our own shops.
Now I know how to sew dress, bags and other things. So in case if I want money, I can even do it myself and go to the market and sell. We are begging the government to help us, especially the dress that we are buying. The price is normally cost, so we want them to bring it down for us so that we can also buy it and go and do it and get some small profits from it.
Program Chief Manager for the Ghana Office of the Korea International Cooperation Agency, KOICA, Jo-hee Lee, commended the progress made by the trainees so far.
KOICA is implementing diverse type of projects to empower women or increase their capacity building and even to increase their life quality. So I'm very happy to be here to see what our beneficiaries have been working and doing, and hope to continue this support, extending our support to many regions.
The vocational training program not only focuses on practical skills such as weaving and sewing, but also includes lessons on business strategies, ensuring that the participants are well prepared to enter the market as successful entrepreneurs. For Joy News, Albert Sori, Bolgatanga.